right, the story so far, briefly here in the Central Front. We have seen the Soviet assaults start slowing down in the last couple turns. Their capability to push forward hasn't been completely halted. I thought it would be. It's become much more, they have to concentrate really hard to take a hex. But taking a hex still allows a breakthrough under this system. Still allows you to gain some ground. And they did that last turn. This turn, however, things changed. They lost air superiority, which meant not only did they have to limit their attacks quite significantly, but they weren't able to achieve the same kind of breakthroughs. Basically, each attack required EW. You couldn't just try to take out some helicopters to prevent them from hitting you, which you can do through attritional means, and also counter battery any artillery near you, which is pretty easy once you're in something close to a set piece battle, because the enemy artillery, the NATO artillery tends to have lower ranges than the Soviet artillery, or at the very least, there are good Soviet artillery pieces that have very high ranges in comparison. So they're able to knock out the NATO artillery and prevent that from having a response, a fire response, so the Warsaw Pact doesn't need to use EW for every attack. But without air superiority, they do. Because any attack that fails to get EW support, NATO can just put in as much air as they want, basically. They had 90 air points at the beginning. They used 24 of them, which leaves them a huge quantity that I could unleash on maybe a couple of key attacks. There's no limit to how much firepower you use in this game, which feels a little weird, but maybe, again, maybe like many things in the game, it kind of works out. Because the combat chart is still not, it's not extreme, right? Getting yourself, you know, the difference between a 6-to-1 and a 13-to-1, yeah, it's big, but it's not like the difference between a 2-to-1 and a 6-to-1 in, you know, the old Avalon Hill Classic CRTs or anything like that. It's a relatively smooth, and also, you usually have opportunities to convert your losses to retreats, as long as you have a line of retreat. Haven't gained a hell of a lot this turn, but we have gained a couple of key places, and we've consolidated position. You can take a quick look at the line. You know, I do this at the end of every video. I'm doing it much, much quicker here at the beginning, just to give you an idea of kind of, you know, what the extent of the advances is. And we also have this airhead being expanded. Now I think it's about as, it's got 2 big units coming out of it, so it's about as big as it can get. But it's beginning to interfere with the artillery that NATO's got in their rear lines. There just aren't enough troops on really any of the maps, but the Hofgap and 5th Corps maps are especially limited because there were paratroops behind the lines, which knocked out all NATO reinforcements on those 2 maps. That's an option that's only available on those 2 maps. Under these rules, there might be other opportunities available in, you know, in the full revision of the Volhers rules, because there are additional airborne divisions. Well, there's, I think, maybe not, maybe there's just the 2. I'm just thinking, it's not like I've dropped an airborne division anywhere. I've dropped some airborne units that are non-divisional. But instead of knocking out one of these maps, it might be possible to, like, you know, stress the French out and keep them from coming on. or one of the other, or the Dutch over here, to take out one of the other maps instead of these two. And then again, maybe not. I don't know. Because under the original 3-game set, when that was constructed, there was no opportunity to prevent reinforcements on the Bayor map. You wouldn't want to, because there's less reinforcements there, I think, than there were on, certainly on the 5th Corps map. But yeah, it was a nice choice to drop the paratrooper divisions and just get a bunch of counters out of the game. It weakens the NATO defenses more than those airborne units would be able to do if you just used them as ground troops. You might make an argument, though, that those guys could have really wreaked havoc with the helicopter defenses in the rear and maybe gained some advantages. All right, I don't know. Part of me wants to start doing NATO right away. Part of me wants to take a nap. That latter part is more likely to win out, to tell you the truth. Oh, well, I can't keep away. All right, so what is NATO going to do? That's the big question. Where am I going to start? Over here, I have this mess by Hamburg, and I kind of don't want to deal with that. So I think I'm going to start over here on the Dono front, where I kind of know what I need to do. I need to fall back here. And then we can see what the effect of that is as we push on. We do have to keep in mind, though, we have airborne units or paratroopers, I don't know, available to us on that map. Over here, a couple on Bayor, not much. And then over here we have a few, but we have a lot over here on the Dono front map, which we could actually deploy elsewhere, and they may be the answer to this problem. But then again, we also have reinforcements coming in. Dutch over here are getting reinforcements, and the French are getting another small batch of reinforcements this turn. I have the first NATO attack on this little airborne unit that got stranded. With 3, I'm able to get it to 21 to 3, 7 to 1 surrounding and whatnot gets me to here. I'll make a quick roll. I only need 2 hits on it, which I have a fair chance of getting. I've only thrown 3 air points in. 4, that'll finish it off. And then that gives at least one of the units involved, one of the stacks involved in this. I got 2 units here? I do. An opportunity to move as well. I've started rectifying this situation. I fell back. I got a lot of lucky disengagement rolls. And I actually brought in one of my airborne units, landed it at one of the airfields, and used that to help solidify the line. I'm using the German units for this because they're already present there. I haven't decided what the French are going to do. They're probably... We'll see how this line develops, but I have a feeling that they're going to be trying to shift onto the Hofgaup map and take up some of the... maybe deal with this and then take up some of the slack that or weak spots that I'm showing over there near is this Nuremberg? Yeah, near Nuremberg, because that's, I don't want to lose big cities, right? That's kind of the goal that the NATO side has, is to hold as many city hexes as they can. Again, I'm not really worried about the victory point spaces because I don't have a victory conditions that includes these other 2 maps. But You know, if I look at it and I say, hey, NATO's holding Hamburg and they still have it in supply, at least part of it, that's something big, right? Something that can be put as a counterweight to some of the advances that the Soviets are making on these maps. Also managed, while maintaining the line here, to smuggle some of the units out of here to get these guys into supply. These guys might actually be. No, not with the cost. If I could get this out of the way, I would be in great shape. This pocket would be fixed. But that's too big. It's just too big, but maybe I can set things up so that I can do a multi-hex attack with a huge quantity of air power and just blow it out of the water. This artillery can't support it because it would be indirect fire. There's some back here that 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's some back there that could, though, these guys. So I would need an EW roll success. I would need to expend a hell of a lot of air power. I don't know if it's worth it. Beginning to shift the French down to take the line here and see how much further they can manage in order to take some of the pressure off the U.S. units up here. The French start developing a line through here. That's going to allow some of these U.S. units to get out of here. And I think we're done with the Dono front map for the most part. I do have a line of reinforcements to bring in. Got another French division coming up here to try to deal with this issue, but again, the U.S. might be able to help deal with it as well. We got kind of the tide turning here, right? I didn't have to throw in too much artillery on this attack up here, and now things just look a lot stronger than they did. Yeah, there's this defect here, and a little bit of a problem over here. There's no question, you know, I'm still kind of on shaky ground with NATO. That's still lightly defended, although I'm in some swamps and stuff. It's kind of weird. The terrain on this map has a significant difference between these high water and marsh spaces. And we're saying the high water is clear right now. Just, you know, that it's not bad weather. But over here, it's a lot harder to tell. So these are the high water spaces, and they're kind of darker than the swamps actually are, as far as I can tell. So, you know, I'm picking my places. It's kind of weird. Built a town in the swamp, but whatever. It happens. And it's sunk. I'm not thrilled with this. I have a couple more airborne units I could just bring in. While I've got air superiority, try to strengthen, you know, create some depth there. But I also kind of like the flexibility of being able to drop those things where I like. So I'm holding off on my decision on those right now. Let me bring in that extra French division, whatever it comes, probably with 3 or 4 movement points, whatever. Start to make its way down and follow up. I'm looking at the French holding the line over here and taking a lot of pressure off the U.S. forces on this map. The French reinforcements that came in had different amounts of movement points, 5, 3, and 2. I gave the 5 and 3 their full movement points without impacting following units, since they already... Oh, we got somebody in the yard over there. He's back. Oh, we got a whole family. Wow, there's like 4 of them there. 5. We got 5 counted so far. Wow. Whole pack of deer. Oh, I guess they're a herd. You heard of deer? I have. I don't know what to do with this engineer. I tend to often leave engineers till late to see whether or not I need it somewhere. Can't coordinate with the Germans. Damn. But but I think I stop here because moving these is going to impact everything back here. So I'm going to have to kind of figure out what the hell's going on. And it's almost raid time. Got to undo some of these counter batteries. I don't get them until I run into them, basically. Like when I see them, I'm like, yeah, I'll undo that. But as long as I'm working my way, steadily across the map, it's fine that I catch them as catch can be. But yeah, this French line is a little weak, but I think it's okay because I'm not facing all that much strength here. And now we're mixing the blues and the purples, which is going to be a problem no matter what. Yeah, I really don't like the choice of color palette. And I know it was limited, whatever, but this was a bad choice. That's all I have to say. I don't know. Something with more red tones would have been necessary. But I wasn't able to strike this stuff. I need the French to cover this. I want the US to move over. This is just because of the battery's dying. Separation of duties. Well, apparently it's Friday, and it looks like it was probably a reasonably pretty day. I don't know what that matters. But I got up stupidly late, like, I guess 2 p.m. real time, but 3 p.m. my time. And I've got about a half hour before I get to raid. Now, I think I can try and get a map, the Hofgap map, done in this period, but I'm not going to be able to do all of NATO across all the maps in what little time I have before a raid, and then I go out dancing. Presumably, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm feeling it, but we'll see. I pulled a couple of those US units off the line. One to get this artillery to where I can use it, and two, just around here. I was considering going up this way to kind of cut him off. Actually, see, it probably doesn't matter because they've got supplies coming up this road as well. This guy's cut off though. But the French are coming over. Maybe they can do something. I doubt it because that's a whole fucking regiment, and it will not be affected by the surprise rules because it was airlifted in. If it gets assimilated into lines and whatever, I'm going to have surprise rules work again. I'm not going to try to remember who got airlifted in and won't be surprised if they're in the middle of the front line and get surrounded somehow. But then I come over here and life starts getting really, really tricky. Okay, first of all, things are intermingled in an ugly way. That's a big part of the problem. Like I'm not getting this guy out and stuff like that. But there's also extensions where the enemy is, kicking up out here. And what the fuck do I do about this? I think I have to give up the river line. I don't see how I can hold it with these kind of penetrations. So I guess I make some rolls and hope that I get out of there safely. I fear I may be coming to an end of the line situation here. I managed to get a couple of units off the line, one up here, but this is what I was worried about. If anything, that makes this incursion just a little bit stronger. But anything I pull off to cover, to try to build a line up here, whatever, I'm going to need to pull significant forces off the 5th Corps map to be able to cover the ground that's coming across here. Assuming that I can actually get forces to cover this part. I don't know if I can, because I'm so sparse here and also so intertangled with the Soviet forces. And the idea of attacking back, even with those big strength point, the big air point bonus, I'm not seeing anything where I could just slam it all in and get good enough odds and have a really, really major impact over here. And that would also, be my one big attack for the entire turn, which I may not end up making a big attack, but yeah. And, that attack will just be foiled if I don't get EW and everything. So yeah, I've got a 50, even if I set it up and throw a lot in, I've got a 50-50 chance of getting away with it. I don't know if I need to start over here. I feel like this drain is actually so vital that I have to keep going on this map. What actually triggered me was this guy here. I was looking at him, I'm like, well, at least I can pull this artillery out, but he's going into a swamp. You can't withdraw into a swamp. It's 6 operations points to withdraw, 7 to move into the swamp. There's no diamond, no access way, and everything else is zoned. So he's just as cut off as these guys who are buried under the Soviet attack. I'm beginning to develop something like a line. It is not good. It is not good, but at least it kind of works. There's a unit here, then this unit, tiny little armored cav holding this possibly key location, this armored unit. But in doing so, I'm pulling everything off of the front here. And this guy can't get out. This guy could, and probably wants to, because he's sitting in a nasty, nasty position. And I gotta cover because I've created a hole here. This guy didn't get out. I've created a hole here where there's just artillery holding the line. And we're gonna shift these guys down, but then what, This line is sparse enough. Everything is so hard to move, and if wherever you're engaged, it's particularly hard to get out of. And you probably don't want to roll to leave those engagements if you can help it. So I'm not rolling to move this little armored cav unit or this mechanized infantry unit because they're holding an important part of the line. If they fail, they're weakened in case there's a second impulse attack, which is unlikely, but they're also, if they succeed, I still have to find someone to fill their place, and they're using 6 of their movement points. But a couple of these guys actually had to withdraw, I think, from here. Maybe not, I don't know. Not those guys. This guy had to withdraw from enemy contact, probably this space. He was covering this space. And now I need somebody to fill in that space, essentially, or a little behind it. But given that I'm stuck on these, I think I actually want someone there anyway, which means maybe I didn't want to withdraw him. Cheating a little here, I decided not to withdraw that unit back to here. He was the first guy I moved, and when I saw how short a distance he could go, I was kind of unhappy. I pulled a couple of units off here, but I cannot get anything to cover his location, and that's just unacceptable in my view. So now I've got to get units to cover more in this area where I've pulled units from already, these couple of guys. But I got a problem. This is open. There's an opening right there. I don't have anything I can put in there. I don't have a damn single unit I can put in there. Can I lessen this line a little bit? These guys were at the length of their movement. If I push this guy here and this guy here, that reduces the road. See, I'm covering, yeah, see, no, this has to cover to that. I think this is the best I can do and still cover this. And I got to find somebody who can fill in somewhere in this gap. And I don't know. Now, if I could give up this, which wouldn't be a bad thing to give up. Oh, I got this fucking armored cav here. He's kind of not really doing me much good, but he's also not going to hold the line. You know, he'll be fully damaged when he gets there. I'm really running out of forces on this map, and I think it's just going to collapse. Some of that may be the delays. This map, remember, the time delay is wrong. All these French troops would be on the board earlier. Now, yeah, sure, the Soviets would have advanced earlier as well, but these French troops, let's see, we're on turn 6 here. What is it? It's like a 3-to-2 ratio. So this would be turn 12. I think we're looking at turn 4, the very end of the Soviet advance, of the Soviet guaranteed turns, is where these guys would be coming in, and that would be a big advantage. It would be sort of a just-in-time type of fix. Right now, I don't have the time. I'm fucked, and I don't know. Once again, I start wondering, hey, am I going to have to give up because I'm just being overwhelmed? You know, we'll see. There's areas where, you know, like here, they're holding on by the skin of their teeth, and there are reinforcements coming in with the Dutch showing up. Here, yeah, we're still holding the line. But these two maps are really, really weakened. And these are the two that lost all their reinforcements due to those paratroop drops. Oh, there was a paratroop drop here as well. So one paratroop unit, I think, canceled out both 5th Corps and Hofgap, and one canceled out the Belgians from Bayeux. That's how it worked. Because there are no Belgians on the map except, like, you know, an armored cav here and there. So that's kind of interesting. I gotta swap batteries, and I'm fucking running out of time. On a dancing night, I could easily cheat an extra hour of play in here. After raid, no matter what, it's too fucking dark to play, but, or, you know, whatever. But the only thing that gets screwed up there is that going dancing means I miss tomorrow completely. I'm like in no position to be playing this. I'll be sleeping most of it. I found the best I can. That armored cav could indeed reach here. That covers this, kind of down to here. I mean, come on, man. I got 2 armored cav holding the center here. Down here. This is a stretch, but this guy's helping pin this. That's why the armored cav was not a pleasant thing to pull out. Then we come up here. Okay, that's all fine. We get to this hex. That's got a big armored unit in it. And then over here, and we've actually got some decent defenses lining up over here where we didn't have quite as much strength, but we've given up with holes elsewhere. This guy managed to escape, which allows me to kind of cover this here. Yeah, there's a gap. And then here, again, I think, given that there's no enemy poised to attack up here, I think I'm actually okay with this really, really sparse line here. We'll see. We'll see what I can do. And as the French come in, some of this might be able to shift back over and cover. But, and, you know, maybe they need to hustle, right? And ignore their goal of like trying to do something about this, this airborne force that's pushed its way in. Although, I mean, that thing is just obnoxious to me, right? Like that's really causing issues among other things. But at least I can do something like maybe threaten these guys up here. What that means is I'm basically up to this map. I've got some artillery to rearrange, but otherwise I think I'm done and set. Something of an afterthought, I started checking my supply lines after I started shifting my artillery around, and I've got some real problems here. Mainly, it's the fact that the Soviet units have advanced so far, or the paradrop units, to interfere with some of my major routes going off the map. What I'm worried about is sort of these guys in here, right? If they can trace up to here, they're fine. Well, no, up beyond this unit. But their trace is mainly down to this area. And this gets iffy because there's somebody in Nuremberg. But there is a line coming this way that gets me out. But boy, is that a thread. We're in real trouble here. I think the Hofgap map is ready to just crack completely open very soon. I didn't really feel like it was as weak as, say, the Fifth Corps map. The Fifth Corps map may be in trouble too, but we didn't make any pushes on the Fifth Corps map. The Soviets kind of are mainly trying to recover, and they don't have many troops over there. But here, they managed to make some significant advances that are really threatening the integrity of the entire Hofgap map, which of course threatens this map, Dono front, very heavily. It's forcing me to push, the French over to cover something. I mean, in the end, I'm not going to be able to hold Nuremberg. I think that's obvious at this point, and that's a big blow, right? That's a big blow from NATO's point of view, of losing, what's a major urban area. And then, I'm pulling stuff off of here. Look, this doesn't matter, but I can't let them through there. I've got to have at least a token defense there. But if it's only a token defense, if they can come up with another division, like say this 7th Guard, which is kind of kicking around down here, yeah, some of it's engaged, but if that can shift up or something, that's going to start cracking things. Now, up isn't that bad. It's over here, and there just aren't that many Soviet units here. There are no more reinforcements coming in here. There's a division here that I can bring in, but otherwise, the Soviet or the Warsaw Pact divisions, because a lot of them are Polish, are on the maps that are mistimed. And that kind of makes sense when you start to think about it. But yeah, we're... It's kind of interesting how much has been diverted from the Fifth Corps map by both sides. It's the most important from the Soviet point of view, and the one that they've gotten the least gains on, because they haven't been able, well, they actually haven't done all that well on the Dono front. But everywhere else, look, Fifth Corps got me to here, Fifth Corps got me to here on these two maps, near the edge of the map. And then Beor got me up to here, near the edge of the map on these others, just because of the staggering. And again, it's why, without some kind of consolidated victory conditions, and maybe the eventual Vauxhall's rules have something that makes more sense, but even the patchwork that worked with Fifth Corps, Beor, and Hofgap kind of doesn't work. What was put together in the CARP, article and moves that links them all together, right? It's as though there really wasn't, so, I mean, there was a rush to get Fifth Corps and Hofgap out as the first couple games probably, and there probably wasn't really a strong thought of what the overall victory conditions would be. I'm fine with that. I'm seeing a situation, and one that makes sense and one that I can kind of assess and make some kind of judgment based on the limited victory conditions on each map. But, if you were playing this competitively, seriously? This? I mean, I get like Europe or even the OCS stuff and stuff, but man, I can't imagine playing this particular thing competitively. Yeah, it just hasn't gotten, the amount of effort and work over the years that some of those other more established monster systems have. And it's very, very different. there's a huge learning curve too, to like how you operate stuff. It's so different from everything else. OCS has a big learning curve too, but at least the core stuff feels the same. You know, you got your step losses and stuff. It's Sunday morning. It was kind of pretty earlier, but it's not anymore. Body is so tired from, it's still aching in all kind of ugly places from dancing. But yeah, we're gonna start picking up. I took a little bit of look at this map, and I think I can, you know, like I said, I actually kind of think this may be sufficient. The problem is I would like to get more force into this area, but I don't know where that's going to come from. If it's next turn, it might actually, as the French come forward, they might be able to fill a gap. But again, I kind of would like them to do something about this, but it's really hard to do something about these regiments. And being able to airlift one of them in has just caused real problems. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm actually considering starting over on this map because it's possible, although unlikely. See, I think I need to shift more forces this way. It's just, it's such a tangled mess as to, you know, where I can find the extra troops to stiffen the lines. This is not at all strong, and I really do need to shift forces there. But I could weaken this. In fact, I could weaken it tremendously. Right? I only need to defend this part of it. I don't need to defend any of that. I can just pull back. I haven't been doing that, but it's, you know, it's not defending anything. It's defending the edge of the world, you know, which doesn't matter. But I feel like, yeah, there should be a map there, so there should be something that could be gained. The German map was actually incredibly easy. I got some Dutch reinforcements coming in. I pushed these guys down here, not where they were intending to go. They were intending to go here, but I'm going to bring that second wave into there. What I really kind of want to do is get a Dutch line here that's consolidated and start pulling some of the weird stuff out. So I have like, I haven't moved this yet, have I? I have some US units in there. They have no artillery support and should really try to work their way out. Another one down there. Those need to get over with the other US units. And then I'd like to get the Brits over into the Bayard map and move, I don't know. These Germans I probably can't get out of here, but shift whatever Germans I have with those Dutch if I can. I mean, optimally. It's not gonna all happen, but I want units to be in their national groupings where they operate a little bit better. And I've started building up this defense line on the Bayard map. This is kind of ugly because I've gotten these guys trapped out. I don't know if I want to give up ground with the Brits. I mean, I'm in stupid places everywhere. And I really don't know how to, you know, those units aren't going to be able to be saved, which means I need to form some kind of second line for when they finally fall. And then I kind of ran through the Bayard and the 5th Corps all at once, rather rapidly, to be honest. A little bit of an attempt to withdraw here, a little bit of backing up here. But this line is pretty solid. Got this artillery piece out of move. I wonder how long that's been like just sitting out there. And actually an armored unit as well. Wow. That's a fairly significant possible change because there are weaknesses in my line, notably here, where there's this push well beyond the Weser that has a weak German unit trying to hold it. I don't know. That unit could not withdraw is the issue. I wanted to get into better terrain there. Then coming along here, it's not optimal, but again, nothing is. Started moving some Brits over to cover over here simply because it didn't have anything else to hold the line there. But then when we get to the 5th Corps map, a little bit of reorganization, pulling out of here. I don't know where he ended up. I think maybe he's that guy. Getting some German armor. Oh no, I bet it was a German armored unit that pulled back there. Getting a couple of German units up here to cover this gap, and then the U.S. is starting to cover across in front of Frankfurt. Wasn't able to do anything about this big gap here, but again, I'm not facing anything either. So a massive push could be ugly. So for example, this 11th, seeing that these guys are non-reactive, could just slide around and maybe hit this artillery or whatever. But I gotta be careful about my supply lines. I can't just push a division forward the way I used to be able to. And I think that pretty much covers everything. I definitely want to get that artillery piece. I'm fatigued feeling. Big question. This is a fair amount of power between the two of them. Now, these guys should not be there. I want to get them out of there, but I don't have anything to swap in for them at this point. So like they're holding that line there. Maybe an artillery could help that. Well, I mean, it certainly could, but I'm more tempted to try to reinforce down here where I feel that the Germans that are in the way are just not enough to hold that. But like I don't have a clear weakness to fill at this point over on this map that those units would serve for. I don't know what to do with them. Drop them in over here. This looks like the most likely place where things are going to fail, not over here. It's hard to tell though. It's hard to tell. The problem is this is shitty terrain and this unit's not going to survive. And are these guys going to be able to be in a shape where they can withdraw, etc.? But I am going to be able to shift a couple of Brits over into that area anyway. So I don't know, you know, I really don't know. But yeah, I think, you know, you can't consolidate by nationality everywhere, right? There's going to be problems where NATO has to slide, you know, Germans intermixed with Brits and whatnot. And that's just a pain in the ass, but it's a reality of the game. Some of it may be tunnel vision, although I don't really comprehend a place where I necessarily would want to do something. But I'm not seeing anywhere where I want it to, you know, use all those air points and launch some massive counter blow. I could. I got EW, etc. You know, I could like try to blast the shit out of this, but it's kind of like it's a 50-50 chance on the EW whether or not I succeed in getting, you know, that massive hit with all my air points thrown in. I just don't think it's worth it. And I'm just not seeing anywhere where I want to dump that much firepower. Are you doing any good there? Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not worse terrain than the other stuff, so fuck it. Yeah, I was expecting to find opportunities where I would hit stuff. And sure, I hit stuff that was behind my lines, and that's kind of what the French were planning on doing, is launching some sort of massive attack. So for example, this, just doesn't have much artillery support or anything. So some kind of move against this to pin that down, or counter battery it if necessary, would have worked. But I couldn't get the French there in place. And I really don't know if it's worth, you know, pushing the French a little harder, especially since I'm not really sure that knocking that thing out is my top priority, as opposed to trying to cover some of this territory that looks like it's really vulnerable at this point. Fuck. I really don't know. Okay, I don't see anywhere where the Soviets want to push their units further. I'm not surprised at all by this. They certainly don't want to continue attacks without air power, putting all the burden on their artillery, etc., and the chance of just, you know, failure. I will take a closer look with NATO because this is their last chance to find some use for some 60-something airpoints. I probably don't want to spend all of them, but it's kind of a waste to throw them away. So we'll see. It's possible the French might do something. I don't know. I backed up time a little bit. I forgot I had an airdrop units. I dropped a German unit into here. Actually, I dropped it here and moved it forward during the NATO turn, because I think that's better than this armored cav unit. It gives me a little bit more flexibility overall. It's a little better defensive and gives me a little bit of capability to like shift units around. I don't know if anyway. I'm working though on NATO and trying to find, hey, is there somewhere where it's really worth dropping an attack? All the places maybe back during the NATO turn would have made sense, during the first NATO turn might have made sense, like an attack here maybe to try to get these guys to break out. But, you know, the numbers just don't add up very well. So for example, I looked at this French unit. Let's say I drove this up to here to attack this thing. I could get like, you know, 60 against 14. Or, yeah, that's the best I can do because it's mobile as a 14. So 60 to 14 gives me, you know, less than 5 to 1. That's not a good number. How about here though? 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, 5. I could actually throw some artillery in. I could easily get to like the 13 to 1 column there. I did suppress this artillery, although 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's not going to support this. But I might even be able to do a follow-up attack or something. So I think I'm gonna do an attack up there. This is the first time we've done that. I don't need EW. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Position that, fine. We're going to be hitting at 3. So we throw an artillery in. That gets us to 5. We're sitting in rough terrain, or broken terrain, sorry. Broken terrain, 13 to 1 is where we want to get it. So we need to get to 39, so I throw 34 air points in, which is a crazy amount, right? Gives us enough for a possible follow-up. There are no shifts I'm going to get off this. There's really nothing. It's just this one die roll. And how big an attack do I want to make it? Well, I don't particularly want to just chase him around. I'm going to do a 3-point attack. So 1, 2, 3. I do 5 hits. He only has to take 1 and then he retreats. We can prevent that from being a problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Can't we? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Let's have positioned this in place so he can't retreat, so that we at least get a destruction. Now, this is a hit on each of these for having operated. But this guy's going to be taking that ridiculous big strike of 5 points. And then I get to continue maneuvering after that. Anything else really worth doing? If there were holes in my line that I needed to fill, I could push units a little faster. But I actually think that the NATO lines look as good as they're going to look. Oh, fuck. Why is this guy here? He was meant to move out of here. He was not supposed to be on top of that. I'm just finding, defects in my positioning, and this is just shit that happens to me. All right. So I think that's the end of turn 6 as a whole, because the Soviets are going to pass. Is NATO going to push even further? Look, I could try to pin this thing down and attack it, but I just don't have a loose unit to do it with. So this guy, for example, could come. Now, it doesn't cost me extra to move on non-road hexes, right? It's just the road hexes. No, it's an extra ops point for each thing. Oh, shit. Yeah. Fuck. I screwed up. These guys couldn't do what they just did. Oh well, we've cheated for the reason being I didn't have enough ops points to get there. But I've cheated enough for the Soviets this game. Let's let that one stand as well. Before I do anything else stupid, let's call it, and we will move to the big flip. And this is going to go up. Part of the problem is I got a big turd coming, and I can't think very clearly, which, yeah, I could have made that mistake anyway. It's just an issue.